Hey, what's up, Nebraska? Rod here with the NFOA. Let's talk about the second week of the 2019 Nebraska Legislature session. We just ended the second week, so time to give you an update as to what happened for new bill introductions and where those bills are headed. So the first bill that was introduced, the NFOA needs to pay attention to this week, was introduced on Tuesday, LB 275, introduced by Senator Hansen. So LB 275 requires notification when a person prohibited by state or federal law attempts to obtain a handgun purchase permit or a concealed handgun permit. This is not the first time Senator Hansen has introduced this bill. Not really sure still what he's after. This is a reporting requirement, but I don't see that it accomplishes anything. If Senator Hansen is curious as to how many denials of purchase permits or concealed handgun permits, I'm sure that he could go to any one of those law enforcement agencies and get that information. This bill does not specify the use of this information. It does not require prosecution of those that were ineligible for the permits but yet applied for them. It really seems like he does not trust the Nebraska State Patrol or the individual county sheriff's offices to make a determination as to what to do in those situations where a prohibited person applied for a permit and then was ultimately denied. I would think that those are the law enforcement agencies best in a position to make a determination as to whether that was with malice and whether any additional action would be required. And the next bill that was introduced this week was LB 343, introduced by Senator Halloran. LB 343 is the School Safety Rapid Response Option Act. And what this does is it does authorize schools to allow employees to carry concealed handguns. A couple of things that are important to note is this does not require any school to pursue armed security. If you read the headlines of news articles on this bill, it kind of makes it sound like all schools would, if this were to pass, that all schools would have armed security. And that's far from the truth. The truth is, this removes a state prohibition on schools being able to even have that discussion and pursue that as an option. Those schools that stakeholders decide they don't want to have armed individuals on their school to defend their kids, they would not be required to make any changes whatsoever. All this does is remove a state prohibition so that schools that want to make some of these choices would have the option and would not be prohibited by state law. So now would be a good time to answer a couple of questions that have come up related to bills specifically. One is, hey, what's up with the bill numbers? How do they get assigned and how's that work? Well, when a senator has a bill ready to introduce, when they introduce it, they walk it up to the front of the chamber. They're in the legislative chamber. And the Speaker of the legislature will read the bill into the permanent record. And the order or sequence in which those bills are read into the record, that's when they're assigned a number. It's just the next one in line. So how come when I search for a bill, like maybe LB 343 as an example, on the internet, I come up with different results than the bill you're talking about? Well, that's a great question. Understand that those bill numbers are reused every session. So every 2-year cycle, they start all over again at LB 1 and work their way up sequentially. So if you do a search on LB 343, you're probably going to come up with some information on a prior session's bill that was listed 343 in that example. The best way to take a look at bills that we're talking about in this session is to go to nebraskalegislature.gov and do a search for the bill that you're interested in. In the upper right-hand corner, there is an area to be able to search for that bill. And if you have a specific bill in the past that you want to look for, you can actually look for a prior session by bill number as well. Also, what is the deal with the one-line description of some of these bills? I can't really tell what they mean with that single one-sentence description. That's easy enough. Understand that that one-line descriptor is not really intended for you and I to fully understand what a bill is all about. See, what happens when a bill is introduced, once it's assigned a bill number, then it goes to the committee that directs the bill to the appropriate committee for the topic of the bill. So if it's pertaining to education, it'll go to the Education Committee. If it's dealing with firearms legislation, it's going to go to the Judiciary Committee. And so this one-line descriptor is all that committee looks at to determine where should this go. And just a quick reminder as to how to read a bill. When we take a look at a bill as it's introduced, understand that there are three components. First is regular text. And all that regular text is the language for a given existing statute. Then we take a look at things that are intended to be added and things removed as the intention of a given bill. If the bill intends to strike language that currently exists in statute, you're going to see that designated with strike-through text. And any new language that would be added is going to be underlined. So that's about it for this week. I was kind of surprised that we didn't have more bills introduced. There are 2 days left. They're not in session on Monday. Tuesday and Wednesday will be the 9th and 10th session day. And so that Wednesday, the 10th day, will be the last day that new bills can be introduced. I wouldn't be surprised to see quite a few more bills introduced on Tuesdays and Wednesday. Don't really know exactly what to expect, but I was expecting more anti-gun bills to be introduced, and there was at least one pro-gun I was expecting to be introduced this session, so they're probably going to drop that Tuesday or Wednesday. So I'll give you an update next weekend, and we'll review the last list of bills, and then we'll probably start going through committee hearings, and we'll give you updates as we get that information too on what dates a given bill is going to be heard. That's it for this week. Stay safe, Nebraska.